this edition of Bill Moyers on Faith and Reason.
The Buddha taught that everybody had the potential, without exception. Every living being has the potential to awaken.
Pema Chodron talks about life as a spiritual journey and her passion to end suffering. That's in this edition of Faith and Reason. Major funding is provided by the Herb Alpert Foundation and by our sole corporate funder, Mutual of America, designing customized, individual, and group retirement products. That's why we're your retirement company.
Welcome, I'm Bill Moyers. We've seen in this series how faith has a place in keeping an open heart and reason a means of keeping an open mind. In this hour, Pema Chodron takes us beyond faith and reason. Her answer to the frenzy of modern life is a calm mind and a warm heart. The journey and discipline of 30 years as a Buddhist nun. Buddhism is not so much a religion as it is a way of life. It marks no divide between the sacred and the secular. And when you get serious about it, Buddhism touches everyday experience. That's what Pema Chodron teaches and writes. In helping many others to find their own footing on the path of enlightenment, she's also helping to change the face of Buddhism in America.
Once upon a time, this was how most of us in the West thought of Buddhism. Monks seeking mental and moral purification through ancient rituals. Images of great temples, exotic art, and a mysterious, serene deity. But it was this man who came to personify Buddhism for us, the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism. He fled Tibet when Chinese communists overran his country and has since become one of the world's most popular spiritual figures. I'm just one of scores of journalists to whom he has patiently explained Buddhist concepts.
Religion is not outside. Religion is here. So I think essentially, or essence of any religion is good heart. Sometimes I call, you see, love and compassion is a universal religion. That's my religion.
In recent years, Buddhism has found a welcome in America, thanks to books by some of its leading teachers who point the way to a practice based on direct experience rather than belief. Pema Chodron is one of those teachers. Here she is at the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, where people come to learn about Buddhism.
The thing is, what we find, if we're not used to sitting quietly with ourselves, not used to meditation, not used to having any inner solitude in our lives, we find that we're very threatened by nothing happening.
When she's not on the road teaching, Pema Chodron lives, writes, and meditates at this monastic center in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, where solitude replenishes her.
For years, she trained as a pupil of the late renowned Buddhist master Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche of the Shambhala Buddhist tradition.
She wasn't always Pema Chodron. Born Deirdre Blomfield Brown, she grew up in New Jersey. Here she is as a teenager, at her wedding in the mid-50s, and with her children. Her grandchildren trick-or-treat with a Buddhist Batwoman. And even Buddhist nuns have to pump their own gas these days. Her books sell widely, with titles such as When Things Fall Apart, The Places That Scare You, and No Time to Lose.
Her readers not only discover modern insights into ancient practices, they also come to see how this housewife and mother became what the Buddhists call a bodhisattva warrior. So, what is a bodhisattva warrior?
Well, it's someone who takes a vow, actually, which I have done and many Buddhists do, that my main passion in life is to awaken myself, and I believe that everybody could do that, and I will devote my life to the degree that I can awaken. To that degree, I will devote my life to trying to inspire other people to believe that they could, and obviously behind all this is the de-escalation of violence and aggression and the escalation of loving kindness and compassion and those kinds of feelings. So the path is about how the individual works with their own mind and how that affects the family, the society, the nation, the world. And so
After 30
but there isn't like daydreaming that then there's not going to be any more mean people in the world, there's not going to be any more prejudice in the world. And it's not just experience based on reading the books and listening to the teachers. There's also a practice, which is the meditation practice. And then you just say, everyone needs some solitude in their life. And this solitude could be that you take time to sit with yourself in meditation 15 minutes a day, you know, or longer, or you find time out in the busyness of the whole thing. I've had many times when I meditate and it seems like my mind is just going 100 miles an hour, and yet when I stand up and walk into life, there's more room in my mind. I guess that's how I would describe it.
More room in your mind?
Yeah. As someone once said to me, the best spiritual instruction is when you wake up in the morning and say, I wonder what's going to happen today. And then carry that kind of curiosity through your life.
That's what intrigues me about you Buddhists, is you go for a long period of time deep into realms the rest of us are hardly aware of. What was the longest period you experienced silence?
I guess a year.
A year. What happens during that period?
The first thing that happens is you climb the walls. This is personal with me. It doesn't happen anymore, but because the detox is so intense. I remember thinking, like, someone coming to the door to just drop off a note or something, and I felt like I was in Kansas and Oz was outside the door. You know, it's like sensory deprivation. But gradually what begins to happen is that you sink so deeply into what life has been distracting you from, because it's a definition of no distractions. That's the purpose of the retreat, no distractions. You quickly learn that distractions are not just phone calls and emails and outer phenomena. Our own mind and our longings and our cravings and our fantasies and everything are also major distractions. And as time goes on and you're feeding it less because no talking, you begin to sink deeper into the undistracted state. And then you begin to realize that life is it's always pulling you away from being fully present.
Fully present? What is
Right.
that?
It is basically a wide awake state where your sense perceptions are wide open in the tradition I follow, and if you could imagine seeing and hearing, tasting and smelling and so forth without any filter between you and your experience. It's as if suddenly all of your sense perceptions had been like narrow little slits, and now they're wide open, like they have no outer dimension. But let me say this, if the result of that life was that I had to stay in that seclusion, I wouldn't think it had measured up to a hill of beans. So for me, I always go out and in and out of this kind of situation because I want to go deeper, but the only reason I want to go deeper is to be there for other people in increasingly difficult situations. It's kind of based on deeply longing to be free of suffering, and then it extends to wanting the other people to be free of suffering and the suffering that you see escalated in the world. And one of the principal teachings of the Buddha was that he said, I teach only two things, suffering and the end of suffering. So this conviction that sentient beings could be free of suffering, they could end their suffering. That doesn't mean physical pain. It doesn't mean outer circumstances being unpleasant. It means what you do with the thing.